welcome to Trek Central Weekly. I'm your host, Dom Paris, and today we are talking about episode 7 of season 3 of Star Trek Picard, titled Dominion. A very interesting episode talking about the consequences and the fallout of the Dominion War. Obviously, we have changelings, and to talk about this fantastic episode, I have some fantastic co-hosts with me. Starting off with Favre, how are you doing today?
Howdy. I'm great. Happy to be here, as always.
Very nice. And Nick, how are you doing? Are you excited to talk about this episode?
Super excited. I was bummed missing last week because that was my favorite so far, but I'm happy to be back.
Well, we can talk about some of last week if it comes up relevantly. And we also have Sohail. How are you doing today, my fine sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about this episode.
Very nice. And the people in chat, thank you for joining us. We love seeing you guys. If there's any audio issues, let us know and we'll sort it out. But first off, I guess the episode started with an interesting character, Favre, who appeared, and what did you think about this cameo appearance?
Well, yeah, we thought we had Tuvok, but instead it was a Fovok.
No, Tuvok.
Tuvok.
Go on.
Some people want to...
No.
I think Fovok is much better, but
No.
yeah, that's one of the delights of doing a show in this setting, in this 25th century setting. You know, it's the same thrill you get out of Star Trek Online. It's like anything from 80s, 90s Star Trek is there. You know, Tuvok can show up, or maybe it's not Tuvok, but, you know, like just the fact that those possibilities, those options are there. I love that these shows are using the universe. Like, that's what world building is all about. So, yeah, it was very delightful to see them. And Tim Russ still knows how to play Tuvok. Obviously, he's very Tuvok-y, but then he got to do something like a little different. So I think it was probably a cool experience for him. Yeah,
very
I love that
intimidating.
smirk. Yeah.
Yeah, we have Cake is Eternal in the chat saying that they're happy Tuvok was not spoiled for me. For those who may not know, the official Star Trek account spoiled that Tuvok was appearing in this episode like an hour or so after the episode came out, being like, oh, we're sitting down with Tim Russ talking about Tuvok in the ready room. It's like, yes, thank you for that. But yeah, Nick, what did you think of Tuvok appearing, and are you glad that at least Tuvok isn't dead? The actual
well,
Tuvok?
so far, yeah.
Yes.
As far as we know, he's not dead. He could be lying. But yeah, it was really cool to see him back on the show.
Yeah, definitely. And so, what was it like? Did you expect the changeling, the Tuvok, to change into the corpse Riker? And, you know,
No.
that was cool.
But yeah, I did not expect that. It was very devious. It actually, the first time I watched it, I just had a feeling of dread. Like, I was like, wow, the stakes are going high because they're getting, higher, because it's like, who else is a changeling duplicate if they've got Tuvok? So yeah, it was very good and tensing. But the best part of it was 7 of 9, like when she reveals, like, oh yeah, Vulcan would never go to this like place after the protest, the Kolinar protest, and my friend Tuvok help me with the mind meld and blah blah. And I was like, yes, get him.
So that is interesting that there's anti-Kolinar practices on this particular world. It's nice world building that this stuff is happening, and it's not relevant, but it's nice like contextual stuff. But what exactly does that mean? Is it like a Vulcan colony that no longer wants to Kolinar, or is it some other race that is like, yeah, we don't like Vulcans? I don't
maybe they're like
understand that.
Romulans. Maybe they're Romulans resettled after the Nova, but they're like they still have like that rivalry with the Vulcans, and yeah, like there were Vulcans there practicing Kolinar, and they did like some big riot or something. I don't know. They burnt down their temple.
Why
or something.
would
I don't
you
know.
riot about a bunch of people who are just like chilling, trying to get rid of emotions? Like, it's not really that big of a threat to riot about.
People go and like shoot up mosques and stuff and in real life.
Oh yeah, perhaps that was the sort of
we've had like the the Vulcan logic extremists, so there might be opposite extremists like to the logic extremists, but
anti-logic extremists.
Anti-logic, yeah.
Right. I would say that to me the most likely, I hope it's a peaceful protest, and to me the most likely thing is that I feel like Vulcans would try to like make Romulans do Kolinar. Like, this is the early days, and so I like that idea of like where the Romulans like, we don't want to do Kolinar, sorry.
No,
like,
we don't need no Kolinar.
Hey, Vulcans, leave leave us Romulans alone.
We have Bjorn in the chat saying that they hope it's not defined what these anti-Kolnar protests were, just to, keep the galaxy big and not, make it small. Like, what a risk that happens when you explain all these minor situations. But the scene as a whole was really nice, how it not only was a chance to bring Tuvok back, but have the reason of, they're trying to find allies in Starfleet. They're searching, they're trying to get in contact with Janeway. For some reason they can't. Tuvok's next best bet. And then turns out that Tuvok's been replaced, and they can't really turn to Starfleet. And I know someone, I think in our Discord server, asked, why didn't Seven contact the Doctor? So, where do you think the Doctor is right now? Because he can't really be replaced with a changeling, can he?
He could be gate-kept, though, like Janeway.
Yeah. Yes. He could.
Which
could
is what
be
they mentioned.
at Starfleet. Where was he in Endgame? Was he
in the present or the future?
In the future version, the alternate future version.
Wasn't he like? No, he wasn't the Hollow Novelist. That was Tom Paris.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he had like that girlfriend, and like he named himself
Joe.
Bob, I think.
I think it was
Joe. Yeah,
it was Joe.
Joe, like, because that was her dad's name, I think, or something like that. So I don't know. He was a player, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, and
I guess that's the only woman we see him with. There's like an implication that's like, oh yeah, he's been busy. The ladies love him.
I mean, yeah.
I think he's in the 32nd century teaching medical at Starfleet Academy.
In the 32nd century, there might be
a
two.
Cameo.
That's true. That's true. There might be two, actually.
Oh. Are we going to talk about that news at all, by the way?
We will talk about that news later in the show, but for those who don't know, Starfleet Academy is the next series that's coming out, and it starts production next year. But we'll talk about that near the end, because we're all here to talk about Picard, first and foremost. So yeah, I'm trying to think of if there's anything else with Tuvok that we can talk about, but no, I think we can talk about the rest of the episode.
Well, before we move on from Tuvok, we get Zombie Riker, which was also scary and kind of like also
something new with the changelings. We've never seen a changeling do that, but it makes absolute sense. And it was a very devious and messed up and very like psychological warfare thing to do.
Yeah, and we know that the changelings very much are like that. They in DS9 they were very much messing with the psyche of Earth to be, we're gonna make sure that they want martial law, so that all that stuff, all the machinations there.
From Fake O'Brien.
But first off, we have a super chat from Sean Kesey, who for £2 saying, "Evening, isn't Captain Shaw great? Janeway incoming?" ?
They've referenced her like quite a few times.
Exactly.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 name drops over the season. I think people are going to be expecting her. I don't think she's going to be in the season. Or if she is, it might just be like a voice only type thing.
I mean, couldn't they easily do just sort of like how Riker appears in the first season at the end, and just, not in the same sets, just filmed separately?
That's more likely.
Yeah, I think that's more likely than anything
I don't think we'll even get that. I don't even think we'll get that.
That's a shame. It might be a way of, Terry Matalas to tease, hey, give me another show, and I'll get you Janeway.
That's what I think. In his ideal show, Janeway would be like what Admiral Forrest was on Enterprise, or Ross on DS9, or Paris and Voyager. I guess now we have April on Strange New Worlds. Like that nice admiral who's like, kind of like in cop shows, you'd always have like the chief of police, just like the boss, like giving orders to your main characters. I think they want Janeway for Star Trek Legacy.
Yeah, definitely. And, it'll be interesting to see at least Janeway's role going forward. Like, it kind of seems that she's a big deal in this. She's probably a full-fledged admiral compared to a vice admiral in Prodigy. So how much pull does she have in Starfleet? Because it seems like the changelings really don't want her to be contacted by these fugitives.
She could be the commander-in-chief for all we know.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't seen Admiral Clancy since season 1. That was 2 years ago in universe, so it might have changed considering Starfleet itself has changed and was reborn in season 1.
Yes, instead of being infiltrated by Tal Shiar, now they're infiltrated by changelings. So,
Yeah,
so big
very
change right there.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who
and
will infiltrate next?
I don't know, maybe
Bluegills, of course.
Bluegills. Yeah, that'll be in Star Trek Legacy. And I do also like the kind of implication that Janeway is probably harder to impersonate / take over, because you know how Janeway is, and probably if someone sees her not drinking enough coffee, they'll realize, oh, okay, she's been replaced. And for all we know, coffee might be poisonous to changelings. For all we know, it might be the actual thing that stops them.
That's their downfall all along is coffee.
That's why they want to keep Janeway away.
Yeah, they no wonder Odo was so grumpy on DS9 because everyone around him was drinking Ractigino, and like they could have spilled that on him and poisoned him.
Yeah, definitely getting his goo. But yeah, we've got a lot of other things to talk about this episode, mainly the trap which they laid for Vadic in this episode. So Hill, what did you think of this trap? I saw a lot of people saying that, oh, it was a bad plan, it failed, but, you know, what did you think?
Well, they didn't expect, you know, lore, of course, but I think it was a pretty solid plan. Like, it seemed like they had everything worked out really, really well, and I think, you know, we don't know what's going to happen next episode, but she obviously springs the trap, but I think they could have actually gotten her. But also the thing that, like, there were so many layers going on, but like she was a little too calm, so I wonder if there was also another plan in her. Like, I wonder if she also knew something that we didn't. So Lore, of course, the agent of chaos, comes in, but had he not, I wonder if she would have still sprung out of the trap. But I loved
she seems like
the
a
whole
woman with
trap
multiple
sequence.
plans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she doesn't just like.
The interesting thing was
backup.
when they came upon the ship and like her first officer was saying, oh, you know, it might be a trap, but she was very much rushing to get on the Titan because, you know, she has.
Oh, that's right. They're running out of time.
Running out of time.
Tick-tock goes the ancient clock.
The ancient clock,
as she likes to keep saying. But yeah, talking about that first officer and how just undefeatable he is. Nick, what did you think of him, and also, you know, being shot multiple times, beating up Shaw, just all the changeling that has the red mask. That is
the
very
big changeling.
Big. He gets shot a couple of times.
First officer or whatever.
Oh, yeah, the one that doesn't die. I don't know. He's like a lurch man. I don't know.
Yeah, and
seems like
I think he
kind of
sucks.
To take him down.
There is also the question.
Problem with,
yeah, go on.
The problem. Sorry, just like the problem with Vadic is that they haven't been able to flesh her out previously to this episode because she doesn't have anyone to talk to. She just sits on this ship with like these minions just talking like these little clickety click voices. So I do wish that they gave her like a confidant that like she could talk to. You know, like in Star Trek 3, for example. I'm just bringing it up because it's like my favorite Trek movie. But you know, like Christopher Lloyd is he had Maltz. He would be like, now listen here, I'm gonna tell you the plan and stuff. Or like, you know, Wrath of Khan with Joaquin would have like the same thing. You know, I wish that they gave her someone to talk to. You know, like Jafar and Aladdin had his little parrot.
She talks.
Yeah, this should have been Vadic's little parrot, but just a big bulky guy.
Yeah. So the Gilbert Godfrey parrot, like she needs some little minion that she can talk about like her plans and schemes and stuff with. And I think we would have gotten to know her a little bit more prior to this, but we do get it here. You know, when they have her in their interrogation and all of that, and get her backstory. But
yeah, definitely. And you know, talking about the backstory, Farfree, do you want to go into the Section 31 stuff? Because I know we talked a lot last stream about this Section 31 element, and there's more in this episode. So, you know, how do you feel about
that? My least favorite thing in Star Trek of the last decade has been how Section 31 has been used. I don't like them being like an official part of Starfleet or of the Federation. I think that totally goes against the initial idea of them as this rogue group in Deep Space Nine. So that being said, these last couple of episodes of Picard, I've really had to struggle with that. Yet I loved so much else of what we got last week, and it's probably my favorite episode of the show ever out of the 27 episodes that have been released. This week, I love getting Vadic's backstory, but I just wish that wasn't like an official Starfleet operation. I wish that had been like more divorced from Starfleet, and Section 31 was
more
even
like
more separate.
what we saw in DS9
Yes.
than what was established by Worf in last episode of
Right.
It's
the
a critical
part
of
Starfleet intelligence. I hate that. I hate to say like the word hate when I'm talking about these shows and stuff. But that's the one time I will say that in Star Trek Picard. That's the one thing that I hate that the show has done, and I don't blame the creative staff working on Picard season 3. I think that's more of a franchise-wide decision. I heard Terry Matalas talk about in season 2, when they kind of established that the Khan stuff didn't happen in the 90s. That happened sometime after the events in the 2020s that we see in Picard season 2, when Soong finds that Khan file. That like the eugenics war is something that happens. It's still like in our future. Yeah, it's like a build up to World War III type thing. And then Strange New Worlds, that same day when they dropped both episodes on Cinco de Mayo, Strange New Worlds doubled down on that when Pike was giving the little history lesson of the 21st century. So that Terry Matalas talked about, like, that was not like a choice they had control of. That was like the larger franchise, the people who control the larger franchise and the Star Trek brand itself. That was a choice they made. Like, no, like all this stuff needs to be like our future. We don't want to make Star Trek like an alternate timeline. We want like these events to all take place in the future. And that's, they moved the eugenics war from the 90s to the 21st century. And I think that's the same thing with Section 31. I think that was more like a franchise-wide choice. They want Section 31 to be like a potential show. They want, to do something with Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh. So I don't blame the Picard people at all, but just personally, like that's my least favorite thing that they do. And I love modern Star Trek, but that's the hardest thing for me to accept.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'll get off my soapbox now. Sorry.
No worries. We do have Jewel Fed in the chat saying, who says Daystrom Station wasn't a Section 31 black site back during the war? And, that's possible because what Vadic says of, she talks a lot about, is that what your history books say? That you gave us the cure. No, one of our own had to take it. But even from her own speech, she leaves out a lot of elements, The Dominion, we only did normal war stuff. And we know that they did stuff like...
they did biological
warfare on civilian populations. And it's just like...
To me, that's just another example of like how sometimes when you're so obsessed with something, like you just don't see reality anymore. So Vadic has conditioned herself, or like believes truly that the Dominion were like proper war masters, and that they didn't do anything, but like we know it's untrue. So I think that's a hint, as a clue as to like Jean-Luc calls her the executioner for her cause. She's no longer an advocate for her cause or like a champion for her cause. She's now the executioner, so she has no other goal than to like destroy, basically.
Yeah, and we also got some of the backstory of Vadic. Nick, did hearing the backstory of Vadic make you, I won't say sympathize, but like empathize with her plight?
No, I don't think so. It felt like I didn't get to listen to a lot of it because I'm like just reacting in Discord, and I didn't get to rewatch it. But it felt very reminiscent of Odo going through his plight with his doctor. And I was like, oh, okay, well, are we just repeating the same thing? It's just a little more intense. Yeah, I'd have to watch it again.
Fair enough. And
it does. That's a great point, that it does parallel like Odo. Odo chose to have his face look like the scientist, right? That,
Dr. Mora.
Yeah,
Dr. His name was Dr. Mora. They originally wanted Renee to play Dr. Mora as well, but then they didn't want to deal with the expensive special effects to have one actor play two characters that had so many scenes together, so they dropped that. But they did want to do kind of like a Dr. Soong Data type thing there. I think that I always thought that would have been neat, and just Renee was such a talented actor. It would have been cool to see that. But we get to explore that here with Vadic copying her torturer.
Yes.
Which that
and
woman,
also, like again,
how
Jean-Luc,
crazy was that though? Like the
Yeah.
like boiling them and electrocuting them and like all of that stuff. I was
Wha-
like,
while-
damn,
Chipping them into pieces.
while
yeah, it's
humming. What
Three
song?
Blind Mice.
Blind
Nice
Mice.
cheery song.
Three
Yeah.
Blind Mice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
or hot cross buns. It's the same. It's the same
Yeah.
melody for both.
same tune.
What's hot cross buns? I don't know that one. That's funny.
I mean, it's the same melody, just with hot cross buns.
Yeah. Instead of saying Three Blind Mice, you just sing hot cross buns.
I mean,
Hot
yeah, for all we
cross
know,
buns.
that's what the
Yeah, there you go,
torturer
you're
was
singing it. There you go.
singing. Yeah, she wasn't singing Three Blind Mice. She was just really hungry for hot cross buns.
Just really
You know,
hungry.
even
Need a
an
snack.
evil
Like,
torturer.
was I
can
singing
like
that out loud?
I sure hope
I
no
think
one heard
that
that.
the thing that's also creepy is that like I think again Picard's the one who points it out, or someone that like she's wearing her torturer's face, and that's kind of like crazy
How
too.
did they know that though?
Didn't
Like
she
they
say
weren't
it? Like
seeing the flashback. Did she
Oh.
say it?
maybe she said it. I don't know.
I can't remember if she did
I
say
don't
it.
That's a
know.
really good point. Yeah, it's a really
Some
good
of the
point.
I
things
was
that
like,
we
how
were
did he know that?
Some of the things that we were seeing, they were probably like details that she explained that we as the audience just don't hear.
You know,
I don't know.
a,
Why?
a
But,
picture paints 1,000 words, but she was saying 1,000 words to them, and we were just getting the picture. So
Yeah.
There you go.
there we go. Yeah,
But yeah, very very demented story. I agree with Fathery that I think Section 31 should be like reserved and like kept for like very like special occasions. It's kind of lost its effectiveness. I mean, like in Discovery we had like now they have badges, like they like it's like there's supposed to be an organization that's secret, and if I recall in Deep Space Nine they even just say we're known as Section 31 sometimes. So that's like just that might not even be who they actually are. That's just who they're known as. So I would love it if we explored more of Section 31 from that perspective, but I actually would love it if the Federation like put a kibosh. Everyone knows who they are. Like Riker knew who it is. Like why isn't the
Sneed
Federation
knew Section 31.
yeah, Sneed,
so
like
it's
why isn't the
common
Federation
knowledge.
actively trying to
that could
shut
be-
this organization down, like,
That could be like post Dominion War,
Mm.
like all of a sudden, like
Yeah.
everyone like knows about, like it's
because
in like the
Bashir was
news and
just
everything.
talking about it to everyone he met.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Bashir was it's almost like Sloan. Why did you even tell Bashir about Section 31? Because he's like running around, talking to Cisco about it and hanging out in Quark's bar in front of Morn and
talking
Pella,
to
the Dabo
former
girl, and everyone else
Cardassian
is talking
spies
about it
about
out
it.
loud. Yeah, talking to Garrick about it.
So, yeah, in terms of Section 31, I'm always going to say that I really like Section 31 in Discovery, and I do like how it goes from an official organization to not so official. But it seems like we've just gone the other way around, and now it's official again.
Yes.
And I liked that. After the Klingon War, they became official and all that stuff. Or during the Klingon War, and then we got all the control
That's
stuff.
how
And that's how it
It
felt,
seems that-
but yeah.
in times of war, they're like folded into Starfleet, I guess. Like in the Klingon War, and then after Control, maybe they get pushed back out, but then in the Dominion War, they get folded back in. We can make it work in universe like that. I mean, I don't love it, but
Yeah,
you
it's
can,
just a shame that the Federation has to devolve to that level of folding back in this rogue organization just to win a war, because then it's like they're losing an aspect of themselves. And you can talk
Right.
about what that means for society and the themes of all that, but it's just interesting, and we'll see how Section 31 goes forward, whether it does actually get abolished, whether they talk about it anymore in this season, or whether we eventually get a Section 31 show and it's like, oh, okay, let's explain
sure.
how Section 31 goes from
Really
these areas.
works.
To be clear, my issue is I don't think that they overuse Section 31. I love Section 31. I think it's a great concept. I think that idea of like, oh yeah, what if there's like a bad guy but they're on your side, and what situation does that put you in as a good guy? I think that's just naturally going to lead to like interesting dramatic stories. Just my problem was with them being made like an official part of Starfleet, and I'm sad that we didn't get the original concept of the Section 31 show. No, they're still trying to develop it, but it's a different animal now. It's the show that Erica Lapolte and Bowie Kilm had a room full of writers working on was going to tell that story of how Section 31 starts off as good guys and then becomes bad guys. And according to them, everything was going to make sense, and it would stay true to the traditional Roddenberry Federation, Starfleet, future humanity ideals, whatever that means these days. But yeah, they said that yes, it'll answer all your questions, it'll feel right, and we're not going to get that. We might get something else, but I'm kind of sad that I wanted to see that.
Oh yeah, definitely. But there's some other things in this episode, or more so, there aren't some other things in this episode, because there are some interesting omissions from this episode, namely Worf and Raffi, but also Frakes and Troy. So obviously they do mention that Worf and Raffi have gone off to Exoport. I love that they keep mentioning this place called Exoport.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, I want to see
just
Exoport
a place.
too.
Yeah, it's just a place. But
Jack was at Exoport.
What
like
do you think
hub, yeah.
Worf and Raffi are sort of up to, and how do you think they're going to come back into the story?
My guess is that this week, since we had an absence of Troy and Riker, I'm hoping that next week we get them and Raffi and Worf as well. So I'm thinking, for dramatic purposes, it works really well that we stayed on the Titan this week. Worf didn't he say, like, I promise I'll retrieve Riker?
Yes.
So I'm hoping maybe like he's right there in the Shrike. So like I guess they would have to come back or something. I don't know. It's like
yeah, and it's also whether Vadic abandons the Shrike and just takes the Titan somewhere. Now the Shrike's just in open
sitting
space.
There in this. So yeah, it's interesting.
They
there
say
must be
that
crew on
conference room scene, though, that when they're sitting around the conference room table, they say that Worf and Raffi are on their way back to the Titan.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant.
Don't know if I heard that bit. But yeah, and
I
guess
I remember that now, actually.
Also from the fact that Jordy is talking about, I'm running out of places to hide the Titan. I assume then Worf and Raffi may have took the cloaking device, because if you need places to hide, why aren't you using the cloaking device? I hope that's the case, instead of them just forgetting that they have a cloaking device enabled on their ship. Maybe it got short-circuited after the Daystrom situation.
That was my question when I watched it for the first time. I was like, why don't they ever cloak? What's going on with that?
Yeah. Though I will say, one of the things which I really loved about this episode, and it's this really small thing, is the use of VFX in this episode, especially at the beginning. Because when we're hiding out in the Chintoka scrapyard, which is also a nice little reference, it makes specific mention of a Vulcan cruiser that is above them in the scrapyard. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's just a Discovery era Vulcan cruiser. That's cool. But then when we get to open space, we see that same Vulcan cruiser. And obviously it made a fake recording of, oh yeah, okay, we're the Vulcan cruiser to Planner. And, oh, we've taken them out, but we've also been taken out. So it's nice connectivity between the two scenes. And it adds story to this episode of, okay, they found this Vulcan cruiser in the scrapyard, they towed it out to open space, and they made a fake recording. And I just think that's excellent visual storytelling from this episode, which is fascinating.
It was confusing the first time you watch, but then when you go back and rewatch it, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
because I was really confused at first. Like, what? Well, there's this battle that took place off screen. What is this part of the trap? What? Like, what's going on here? But yeah, it does make sense.
The only thing that is a little bit weird is the fact that Vulcan cruiser in Discovery is basically a shuttle, a runabout, and in this it's sort of framed to be as big as the Titan. So it may be that not only the Federation was being nostalgic with its ship designs, but the Vulcans maybe as well.
I thought it was the Enterprise Vulcan ship.
No, it was the Discovery era one. You can see from its rings close to its body.
Okay.
Because they used it in season 2.
What do you call it? The more like combat oriented one that was in. There was an Enterprise. Speaking of season 2, I think the first time you see it is that season 2 opener, Shockwave Part 2. But
I mean, I'll have to look back, but I think it was the Discovery one because they.
I mean, that would
do
make
love
more
using
sense
that.
since they already, they have that asset. They used it in season 2, like you said.
Yeah, definitely.
It did look like the Discovery one, or the same one
Okay.
T'Pring has in.
That makes so little
Pioneer
sense.
World.
That didn't even occur to me as an option
Yeah.
when I was looking at it. Like,
It's
what
just
kind of ship is
massive.
this? Like,
There is another aspect of this episode which we have hardly talked about, and that is the Jack Crusher telepath, mind control, red eyes thing. Nick, how did you feel about maybe Jack Crusher not only hearing thoughts but also maybe controlling Sydney? Was it confusing? What do you think of it?
Yes, I'm still confused. My one and only guess at this point is leaning towards something with Paw Wraith / Borg fusion. I don't know. But also, I then remembered that there was like one episode, I think, in DS9 where it showed changelings do have like a telepathic kind of link thing, which I completely forgot about. So I don't know. My vote is Paw Wraith.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people be Paw Wraith because red eyes, which is interesting. So Hill, what do you think's up with Jack?
I have no idea, but I'm guessing.
Idea.
I have no idea, because I've been kind of racking my brain over it, like Paw Wraiths, like maybe prophets, like maybe it could be he could be a partial changeling, but he hasn't changed. Like he's shown a lot of abilities, but he hasn't actually like turned into goo. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on with him, but my guess with the voices and everything is that like I just feel there's like a strong presence of the Borg. So I don't know, and especially with Jean-Luc's nanoprobes and like I had this
the
kind of
Locutus
like
juice, as I refer to it. Yes.
Exactly. So I'm wondering if he is in some kind of unintentional Borg being that wasn't meant to
There
be.
has to be something Beverly's leaving out then, because this
Well,
can't just be
I don't
like
think it has
sudden.
anything to do with Beverly, because Vadic says that he wasn't meant for you. So we've got to understand what that means. Because, and I think that means that we just, it's nothing to do with Beverly. It has everything to do with
No, I mean like
Picard.
something in his childhood that happened that maybe she's
The theory that
Possibly.
theory that I had was that Jean-Luc was designed or meant to be a consort to the Borg Queen, so maybe the Borg Queen was going to try to reproduce biologically, and that was her intention, because she did seem like she was like kind of like like there was a vibe in First Contact that she kind
Jean-Luc,
of felt
Locutus, I want to have your baby.
right, like but
But also that's kind
I
of
don't know,
weird that
she's
then
just generally like seductive, I guess, but
the Borg
but, like, I
Queen
just got the
changed Locutus to be the consort and made it. I like it, but it's also very weird.
I like it.
Maybe. Fabri, what do you think? What's your theories on Jack?
After episode 7, I'm no longer thinking Paw Wraiths are a possibility. I think it's going to be Borg. I think it's something. I don't even think we're going to get much more changeling stuff after this. I think Vadic makes it clear that whatever her changeling terrorist motivations are, it has nothing to do with Jack. Just for some reason, it's whoever she's working for. The scary face that we don't know anything about, but
The hand face.
that like really terrifies her. Like for whatever reason, she is working for this other party, and I think it's going to turn out to be very, very Borgish. I think it's like I kept calling it like wireless assimilation. I think that's what he's doing when he's like
Yes.
syncing up his brain with Sydney's. I think it's gonna
right.
it's something like that, and like we know that the Borg are in like a very compromised state. That's something that they remind us like across multiple shows, like in Prodigy or in Picard season 1. So I think like maybe like the Borg and like their desperation to try to like return, like they're like, oh yeah, we need like the Jack boy because he has like the Locutus Borgness in him and whatever. Okay, we got like these pissed off changelings over here that hate the Federation. We'll use them to like go retrieve them, and that's what I think we're gonna have revealed. I was excited at the end of this episode because as confused as I had been when Vadic sits down in that chair and has like her big victory moment. Fun to see the bad guy win. But she says, Jack, it's time. If you can hear me, my dear boy, it's time to learn who you really are. So it's like, as confused as the episode made me when I was like, okay, thank you, show, for telling me that you have answers ready to give me soon. Because I'm confused as hell right now.
Also, it's interesting. The Borg are always talking about adding, another species, biological and distinctiveness. So it always made me wonder why we didn't do things like, for example, if they assimilate a race of telepaths, like the Borg should totally use telepathic, and who knows, they may have done that before, so like it is kind of cool if Jack is Borg related, that like he's able to use these other abilities that we never really see the Borg do, but they should be able to if they have other species abilities, so it's interesting.
It would tie into the larger theme of the show, which is about legacy and generations and stuff like, and how the past influences the future, and like inheriting the sins of the previous generations. We saw it juxtaposed last week. We had like all the good stuff, like the legacy of the Federation and kind of Star Trek itself with the Fleet Museum, but then you also have like all the like the nasty Section 31 stuff and all of those echoes of the past being preserved simultaneously. And it's like, yeah, like you inherit those pearls of wisdom from your old man, but you also get like his aromatic syndrome. It's like, oh, like all that baggage John Luke has with the Borg, it's like, yeah, it's something like his child has to deal with. So it would match it would match like the larger theme of the season, I think.
Yeah, and I am definitely a sucker for themes throughout TV shows, so I'd like that. I do think it's somewhat like a better Borg, or a Borg 2.0, as I saw in chat, that they were trying to make something biologically distinct, and like you said, with him connecting / controlling Sydney, it was almost like a hive mind of connecting two minds just without the technology. We do then have to wonder what the structural defect in the brain is that Picard had before he died, and now Jack has, and whether that structural defect is actually an element of the brain or it's a Borg thing, because brain's weird and all that stuff. I definitely would prefer that than it being like a superpower of the aromatic syndrome. We talked about it, I think, last stream of I don't like this. Oh yeah, okay, it's aromatic syndrome, it's cool, because then you've got to wonder, okay, but what about Picard season 1, and then what about TNG, the final episode? So there are some interesting elements there, and we should see where it goes in these next couple of episodes.
Was Q responsible for Jean-Luc traveling to the different time periods? Was that Q's contribution in All Good Things? I can't remember.
I thought so.
Okay, because
how else was he doing that?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is
because it definitely wasn't the aromatic syndrome. The aromatic syndrome was just hallucinations.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, it was Q. It was Q helping. That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, are there any other aspects of this episode? Either any of you or anybody in chat wants us to talk? Oh, okay, lore. I completely forgot about lore. Favre, as you shouted out lore, what did you like about lore in this episode? / data / I guess they sort of written out that Sung can appear, or B4 can appear.
It was one of those moments where like you can tell it was like something that was like it said or thought in the writer's room, but when Laura's basically saying like, oh yeah, you have like all these heroes that are just going on all these like just spewing their morality all over the place, like you don't want to make the scene really interesting, then you need like a little arch, you need a little bad guy in there, you need a little nasty. So yeah, I liked his inclusion. It was just fun to have that danger added to the to the show. A way to kind of like raise the stakes a little bit as we're getting closer to the end of the season, and it set up the really beautiful moment with Data and Jordy that I felt like TNG never used that friendship to its true potential. I think Star Trek Nemesis criminally denied us like a goodbye moment. They just gave us that quick look, and it was like we needed a scene like this there. To have like Data's goodbye to his best friend Jordy, and so I cried when I heard Jordy describe his experience with Data and how losing his best friend broke him, but the cherished memories that he held on to is what healed him. And just like damn, like what an incredible moment. LeVar Burton was so good with the big emotional material that they didn't give him scenes like that in TNG either. So yeah, I was very, very happy to see that. It was like long overdue and well deserved, and really meant a lot to me as a fan of those characters.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I really hope LeVar Burton gets a Emmy nomination because I think he was great. Like I think everyone of course they're all like giving master classes for these characters. I mean, they know them so well, and they're just like all of them are such great actors.
Frakes has been amazing.
Yeah,
Frakes has been killing it. Michael Dorn back as Worf, like this new changed Worf has been so good.
Yeah, and I think that like to me the highlight of this episode was that it felt like a return to the cinematic space opera style that we get in the motion in the films. You know, they always often refer to Star Trek as space opera, and I think that like that this episode to me was like I was breathless at the end. The music, like just like the way the music was building and building and building, and like all the drama and Vadic and everything. So to me, it was like it felt literally like a soprano started singing, and then the curtain fell, and you have to rush to get your drink at intermission and come back for the next episode in 15 minutes before the bell rings.
Yeah, that's an analogy. Nick, how did you find LeVar's performance in this episode?
I've been waiting for him this entire season. Yeah. So last week, as I said, I was sad I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't be here for it. But it finally felt like, okay, this is TNG again. We've got Jordy here, and I want to see more of him. That's all I want. I want Jordy. Yeah,
definitely. I just loved how he switches between father and friend and has all these facets to him. That are just fascinating.
LeVar Burton's 100% down for legacy, by the way. He's been like like legacy stuff. He talks about it on
he wants to get his daughter he wants to get his daughter a job on Legacy.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, because unfortunately Mika just hasn't had a lot to do in these episodes. You know, they've left all the main daughter stuff to like Sydney and Ashley Sharpay Chestnut. But you know, Mika still does a great performance as
that moment
Jordy's
with
son,
Lore was really, really nice.
Alondra,
yeah. So you know, it'll be great to get more of Alondra and you know more of Sydney and all these other characters because they are just great, and I would love to see more of them. Like, you know, another show would be great because they've set up such great possibilities for storytelling.
And we got to give a lot of credit to Terry Matalas for not only getting all of the TNG actors back on board a season, but and telling a story that we seem to be enjoying, that most people seem to be enjoying, and that was able to satisfy all of these actors, because it seems like they did have like, you know, very specific demands. I think Frakes probably asked to be in, you know, all 10 episodes, as you know, we've seen a ton of him. I think you know, Michael Dorn, he's talked about how he wanted to play a Worf who has matured a little bit, who has kind of evolved and mellowed out a little bit. So it was, you know, fun to see, as I think Michael Dorn has kind of become more of a Zen person in recent decades. So that's cool to see that represented. Brent Spiner clearly was like, I want to like not have to have all that makeup and like look younger, be like, you know, like young, innocent, naive
like
Data.
Himself,
like, I want to be, you know, more like myself. I think that you know, Gates McFadden obviously wanted like a big meaty role. I think Marina Sirtis wanted the opposite. I think she was like, you know, like I don't want to do like a ton of work right now. I just moved back to London. It's like I'll be in it, but not not in very many episodes. So, yeah, he gave them all what they wanted and what they needed to come back.
And it services
but,
the story extremely well.
right.
And
Yeah, but
services
he
these characters
tailor-made the
in the
story
best way.
to that, yeah.
Yeah,
really, really good writing.
Definitely. We got a super chat from Veritas. Always great to see you for $20. And is just a wow person. So if you do actually have a message, you know, say it in chat, and I'll make sure to keep an eye out for that. But thank you very much. It very much supports the channel, so thank you. Yeah, are there any other aspects of this episode that any of you want to talk about? If not, then chat, you can ask us your questions, and I guess we do have to talk about the latest news.
A lot of news this week.
A lot of news.
Let's go for
yes,
the news.
so I guess let's start, because I don't think it was news last week, of Star Trek Strange New Worlds has been renewed for a Season 3, as well as having a release date for Season 2. Does anyone have the release date for Season 2? Because I do not have it.
June 15th.
June 15th, so a couple of months away, which will be interesting. It'll be interesting if we get a trailer, maybe for First Contact Day in 2 days. One can hope.
Likely.
It's very likely, considering
By
I
the
think
way,
it's finished, like, basically post-production as well, so, yeah.
Yeah, it should be. They wrapped production on that, like,
ages ago.
But like the middle of summer, so yeah, they've had plenty of time for post. I should let people in the audience know that on the Text Trek channel we're going to be doing a live reaction to whatever is going on for First Contact Day at 3 p.m. Central, or 9 p.m. at night for y'all over in the UK. So people can check that out. But yeah, we'll talk about any trailer that's released, or if there's not a ton of new news, we're going to talk about like what we would like to see in a hypothetical Star Trek Legacy show. So
very nice.
Should be fun.
Yeah. We also got a vague release date for Star Trek Lower Decks, which is in late August this year, as well as a renewal for Season 5 of that show, which is wild. Definitely more Lower Decks. We all love that. And the only Star Trek Prodigy news was its second season's going to come out this year. Yeah. No renewal, which was, it's just a little weird when the two other announcements were. Oh yeah,
they've only gone through 20. Currently they've only released 20 of their 40 ordered episodes. So I think it's too soon for Nickelodeon to even make a decision if they're going to buy more or not.
Yeah, definitely, because has it come out physically yet?
Yeah. Only the first 10 have gotten a physical media release. Yeah.
So they probably don't have enough information to be like, okay, let's renew it.
I got a little, I jumped the gun a little and was like, where's the renewal announcement for Prodigy? But then some people point out, like, well, the show's not, Season 2's not even coming out till the end of the year, so like
and then and they'll split it up again. I think we'll get 10 episodes this year, and then they'll have 10 for next year. So it'll the same way that I think the way that the year is going to fall out basically is it'll just be similar to last year, where we'll do Strange New Worlds, and then Lower Decks always premieres in August. So if you look at the calendar, June 15th, add 10 weeks, that gets you into August. I think as soon as Strange New Worlds wraps, they'll drop Lower Decks, and then in October, I know that the announcement said Prodigy's coming in winter, but I think it'll actually premiere in October, like it has the last 2 years, and they might overlap that Lower Decks finale with the Prodigy premiere like they did last year, and then like the last 10 weeks of the year will be Prodigy, and then next year we'll probably do the same thing as this year, except instead of Picard's final season dropping in early in the year, January or February, they'll give that window to Discovery Season 5 and have like the final season of Discovery, Strange New World Season 3, Prodigy, I keep doing that, Lower Deck Season 4, and then the rest of Prodigy Season 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of Trek coming, and talking of that, we do have a new show, which we said near the beginning of the stream, and that is Star Trek Starfleet Academy. So Hill, I'll start with you. What do you think of this new show that they announced?
The only time I've ever been excited about the Starfleet Academy concept is if it would take place during the Lost era, between the original series films and the Next Generation, and then the 32nd century. Actually, I was so chuffed about the suggestion in the press release that it's going to take place during that time, because I was reluctant about Disco at first, but then I ended up loving it. And when I found out it's only getting 5 seasons, I was really bummed, because I thought like this is a show that could like mature further and go on. So I'm glad that we're staying in. It looks like we're gonna stay in the 32nd century, and continue exploring the disco world, so to speak. So yeah.
Disco world, I like that.
The disco world, yeah. I'm super excited about it. I'm really hoping Mary Wiseman will be a part of it. I'm also hoping that David Cronenberg will be a part of it. I'm also I think there's a lot of opportunities because of the way the technology is in the 32nd century to bring legacy characters back through like holo instruction or holodeck scenarios, as Father said on Text Trek the other night. Like there's just a lot of opportunities, so there's really not, you can pretty much do anything Star Trek in the 32nd century because it's all in the past as far as the 32nd century is concerned. So I like that.
Very much. And yeah, I thought it was a very safe bet for it to be 32nd century, because I think we still need a lot of world building in the 32nd century. Discovery's done a good job of setting it up, but we do need a lot more fleshing out of the 32nd century, and more shows in that can do a great job of just being like, oh, how are the Klingons going on, but not even talking of all those legacy creatures of like, oh yeah, how's the Cardassian Union, are the Ferengi nice now, how's that work, how did their societies develop? You can do that, but also add new things of, oh yeah, this species was only discovered in the 28th century and they're pretty cool. You can do cool things. It's also a great to just reuse a lot of Discovery assets and a lot of the things they've made for sets and everything. So the show, at least in the first couple of seasons, doesn't cost as much, because at the moment a lot of streaming services and studios and platforms, they're struggling. So getting a show that has that low level entry for at least the business side of the show business is wise. We'll see what demographic it will be, whether there's something for us, whether there's something for me, we'll have to see. But I love that Star Trek is going through these different demographics, and it's not just catering only to TNG fans. That's Picard. It's not catering to animated fans and all that stuff. So we'll have to see when we get trailers and promotional stuff, but I'm excited. Nick, what do you think of Starfleet Academy?
I wasn't the biggest fan of Discovery. There were a bit too many plot holes for me, but I can appreciate the show for what it is. I thought acting was really well done. But maybe this will be like our new Red Squad, so to speak, because we had that in DS9.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see how Starfleet Academy itself has developed and
hopefully
changed.
These kids do a little better than those kids did. When it's interesting, we covered that episode on Text Trek recently when we were going through the final seasons of DS9, and one of the things I pointed out was like, it's almost kind of I know it came out first, but it does kind of feel like a reaction to Star Trek 09. Like, oh, you want to take like a cadet and just make him captain of a ship that's also crewed by a bunch of other amateurs that don't know what they're doing? Like, it would actually probably turn out like this, not like how Star Trek 09 turned out.
Yeah, very much. And Favre, it being set in the Discovery 32nd century, do you like that? Would you have preferred, Strange New Worlds time or 25th century? What are your thoughts on the timeline placement of Starfleet Academy?
I don't want to abandon that time period. I think that there is enough interesting stuff going on there that shows should continue to explore that era of the 32nd century. However, to me, like the heart and soul of Star Trek, because I love like the shared universe and the interconnected universe. So to me, it's always really been about like the things going on in and around the Federation during the 23rd and 24th centuries, and now the 25th. So the shows that go away from that, I still like. I still like Enterprise, even though it's way in the past. I still like Voyager, even though it's way on the other side of the galaxy. I still like Discovery, even though it's like way farther in the future. But I'll never like those three shows as much as the other ones that are more interconnected. But yeah, I think that I would like an Academy show more if it was, 23rd, 24th century. But I do want them to keep doing something with that 32nd century era. So, why not do it there? And I don't really need an Academy show because Prodigy kind of scratches that itch for me. Like, oh yeah, I want to see like the young cadet amateurs kind of learn how to become good Starfleet officers, and that show is doing it. But a lot of people aren't as plugged into a Nickelodeon animation like how
just animation in general.
I like that stuff, but a lot of people like it's not for them. It's these I guess like Buffy kind of started this in the 90s, like doing these genre shows that have this kind of like high school academy type settings. The Harry Potter franchise is huge. One of the biggest streaming shows right now is Wednesday on Netflix. So yeah, it makes absolute sense for Paramount Plus to try to push this academy show right now.
Yeah, definitely. I do see someone also cybersecurity says a new Dominion War show has been announced too. But I think you might have fallen for April Fool's yesterday. Just like we put out can't you believe it? Star Trek Picard Season 3 was just a holo program. Here's Archer on the set. April Fool's was yesterday. Don't believe everything you saw yesterday. There are a bunch of here's Star Trek Romulus, the new show from Paramount. Star Trek Pulaski,
don't believe
I
anything.
saw that. Yeah, don't believe anything
you read
yesterday.
On April 1st.
And also don't see anything that's not, put out by official sources anyway.
There was Star Trek
regardless.
Pulaski. I saw that one on Aaron Walke's.
Oh yeah, Aaron Walke's picture.
But I think he's serious about that. I'm just gonna say, he probably has a concept for it. You just can't get Diana Muldaur.
I do not think that a professional writer would waste their time on a joke to actually flesh out that concept.
Okay,
but,
we have another super chat from Sean Casey for £5, saying sorry to comment again. No worries. But do you not think Disco's awful dilithium temper tantrum story makes everything before it pointless? It's all going to blow up. No, because it's so far in the future that, even if you think that makes it pointless, then the fact that it's so far in the future also would make it pointless. And I'm still a massive fan of the burn. I think it makes sense. A lot of people who are like, why wouldn't the Romulans take over? They have drives. Their singularity drives still require dilithium if you check the technical manuals made by Rick Sternberg in 2003. So, it all makes sense.
Nice.
I just had to do that because
I did not know that.
On a lot of our videos, they're like, why didn't the Romulans use their singularity drives? It's because it still requires dilithium to regulate the plasma streams that come from putting matter into a singularity.
I won't go too far into it, but Dom, in 900 years, you couldn't find a better solution to dilithium, being a regulating device for matter antimatter mixes. But hey, whatever. Yeah. I didn't mind as much. To me, the burn, Discovery, where it excels is the character stories and some of those things. And so I think by the time the 10C is where that's why I'm a little disappointed they only get one more season, is because by the 10C I feel like they finally figured it out, how to do their disco thing really well. Because the 10C I thought was a great concept and everything like that. And so yeah, season 5 I'm really hoping is going to be they're going to be at the top of their game as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll argue the burn with anyone because I think thematically and technically it makes sense. The fact that this child's world actually got destroyed and it was physicalized by the actual universe, that's cool, and that's Star Trek. We have kids having temper tantrums and destroying the world, even in TOS and TNG, all this stuff. So it's Star Trek, and I will fight anyone. That's a challenge to anyone. No,
I would never.
If you're sad enough, if you're really sad,
yeah,
and you scream into a planet of dilithium, it blows up all the ships.
Well, they do actually explain
Well,
that there's.
yes,
I don't
there's a
remember
lot
the
of
exact-
explanation stuff.
Yeah,
but
there's.
we've
I don't remember
talked
the
a lot
exact
about the burn.
details,
We
but-
can do a separate
yeah.
stream on the burn.
Yeah, we'll
because
do
it
it.
seems
Do you guys
there's a
want
lot
to burn?
of
That,
hot
I think that
heads with
that
this.
horse is dead. It's been beaten.
Yeah.
That horse is burned.
But yeah, I guess we are we're already past the hour mark, so I will end the poll and see what people have said from our live chat of what the best aspect of the episode was. If you're in chat, let us know your favorite. If it wasn't in the poll, let us know your favorite just thing from this episode, anything you want us to briefly talk upon. But I think we have a clear winner with the poll, and that is Vadic's backstory reveal, the Section 31 torturing scene, with 48%. That's nearly over half. That's pretty good. Tuvok, the better name, don't come with me at Fovok, that doesn't make sense. Tuvok, Changeling Tuvok at 21%, Law of Chaos at 16%, and then Jack and Sydney Lacrush at 14%.
Could it be Tuvling? No, that's too weird.
No, Fovok, because he's the faux Tuvok. He's the fake
Tuvok because he's a changeling Tuvok. Like, anyone could be a faux Tuvok. Like, you have the person in that Voyager episode where the con men pretend to be Tuvok and Janeway. That's a faux Tuvok.
He was a Fovok.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it's not specific enough. Bless. But yeah, I hope you all had fun during this stream. Favri, do you have any last words to say / where can people find you for more of your glorious face?
Sure. Well, I talk about this episode in much more detail over on the Text Trek channel. If people want to check that out, we do a live show every Friday night at 7 p.m. Central, going over that week's new episode of Star Trek. When there's no new Star Trek, we typically talk about older Star Trek. We just went through all of DS9, my favorite Star Trek show, with my co-host Dave, who watched it for the first time. And we'll continue to cover Picard for the rest of the season. Of course, we'll be doing Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, and Prodigy later in the year. And hopefully, in some of this downtime between Picard Season 3 and Strange New Worlds, hopefully I can, take a break, because we haven't missed a weekly show in a very, very long time, and I'm very tired. But B, we might try doing some interviews and stuff like that, so people should give us a subscribe. You can also listen to the show wherever you get your podcast as well. And follow me on Twitter at TXTrek.
Very nice. We also have some Tublob in chat, which
like
Nick, I
Guvok.
see you want. We also have Guvok,
Guvok is...
and a
like
horrifying
Guvok.
idea
That's a good one.
of Tuvix, which is a changeling Tuvix, which I think Janeway would try to murder even faster. But talking about Tublob, Nick, where can people find you? Any last words? All that good stuff.
One quick thing just about Picard in general. I miss color. Quit making it so dark. Give me more of beige. Give me color, please. But I'm on Twitch under Piece by Piece every Tuesday and Thursday.
Very nice. One thing I do want to say about just how dark the show is, they showed some concept art of Raffi wearing Seven's belt from season 2, the Fenris Ranger belt, which you can hardly see in the episode, one because it's dark, but also because it's shot in a way that you can hardly see the belt buckle, which shows. But it's just a really nice detail, which is like, oh look, Raffi's wearing Seven's belt. That's cool. That's cute. I like that. But yes, talking of that. So Hale, where can people find you? Any last words? That sounds ominous, but I assure you it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm just really enjoying Picard. It's doing a lot of things that I didn't dream of or imagine or expect, and I always get delighted when my expectations are subverted in a good way. Sometimes it's not. You guys can find me at Sohail, Starfleet Sohail on YouTube, Starfleet Boy on Twitter because you can't change your name easily there. And on Thursdays we do like kind of a initial reaction panel discussion, and On Saturdays we do a Star Trek animated series discussion, so tune into those if you get a chance.
Very nice, very nice. But yeah, I think we are done here. I look forward to talking about the next episode, which, do we know the name of the next episode?
Yes, the name of the next episode is Surrender.
Surrender. Ooh, ominous title. I wonder what all that's about. But yes, I look forward to talking with our live chat, but also with all you guys. So I hope you and chat have a great week. And as always, live long and prosper. There we go. I think maybe